Okay, ladies and gentlemen, dinner in about 6 minutes, so bear with me, okay? The reason I'm standing up here is my 12-year-old daughter, Chloe, suffered a traumatic brain injury at birth. As a result of that, she suffers from, among many other disorders, epilepsy, and has recurrent seizures every day of her life. Her mother, Nicole, my exquisite wife, who I can't see right now, but she is exquisite, my best friend and truly one of the strongest women on the planet Earth, along with Chloe's 10-year-old brother, Jake, and 7-year-old sister, Alex, who are extremely attuned to Chloe's situation, live in this epileptic world every single day. The missed nights out, the canceled vacations, the general disruption of day-to-day life that occurs when their sister is having a bad medical few hours, few days, few months. It all takes its toll. The desire to hear Chloe speak, even just to say, hey, my favorite color is blue, I'm cold, or I love you, mommy, is very, very strong. But of course, we're not alone in the fight. 3 million Americans, as you saw earlier, suffer from epilepsy, and they have families and friends who are impacted. Suffice to say, the number of people impacted by epilepsy is exponentially greater than what the data suggests. So with that in mind, the video you just saw and the words of Dr. Rao you just heard is why we're here. There's no clearer way for us to mark progress than to see our doctors in action. Thanks to your previous donations, the Gomez and Clowen families now have committed and qualified specialists on their team. Not too long ago, assuming a parent knew or through a pediatrician was advised to see an epilepsy specialist, and I can assure you, there are many parents who are not aware these specialists exist. Getting an appointment to see a doctor like Dr. Rao would have required a minimum 6-month wait. To put it in seizure years, Natalia and Audrey could have had thousands and thousands of potentially damaging seizures while waiting. These seizures could very well have negatively altered the outcome of their lives. So in large part, the 13 doctors we funded to date, and with the hope of funding 3 more this evening, is where your money has been invested to date. And what a great investment it's been. Now, while it feels great to hear all of these care success stories, these are great. There's so much more we can do. We need to make sure that care and cure are not mutually exclusive terms. Truth be told, the Gomez and Clowen family stories, while incredible to see and hear, are not surprising to those of us who have been in the trenches in the fight to end epilepsy. When we got started with the Care and Cure fundraiser, there were orchards and orchards of low-hanging fruit here in Los Angeles. Kids having seizure after seizure and parents who were at a loss on how to stop them. Simply by getting qualified doctors in place, we've made an immediate and profound impact. But now we need to find a cure that works 100 out of 100 times, as opposed to the approximate 1/3 success rate we see with medications, dietary programs, and surgeries. So as a result of the funds raised from the Care and Cure dinner, Los Angeles has very quickly become the city with one of the highest concentrations of pediatric epilepsy specialists in the country. Having this, It's thanks to you guys. Having this local base of medical experts is necessary as our mission broadens to aggressively now find a cure. Care will always be ongoing, but a conviction to finding a cure starts tonight. Numerically speaking, if the care part of our dual care and cure mission is 1.0 and cure is 2.0, we're currently positioned in the middle at 1.5 and 0. And our vision for getting to 2.0 is not only to train our greatest resource, our doctors, to work in this collaborative environment that affords patients the best epilepsy care, but to retain these doctors. That's the key, to retain these doctors here in LA so that as a working group, they can collectively find a cure for epilepsy. Train and retain is the mantra of the evening. So let me be frank, and I've said this before in other evenings, doctors rendering clinical as opposed to procedural care do not make the big bucks. People think they do. They don't. The folks we are helping to train are not going through the years of medical school, a residency program, and all the extra training to become an epilepsy specialist to have a mansion in Beverly Hills. They're not. To the contrary, they go through the most intensive training and incur enormous expense for a purely altruistic reason, to make a difference. They make a difference in children's lives, first by providing the care, and then by trying to find a cure. And it's the cure that is the ultimate motivation. The cure will come through their ability to remain in LA while doing research and conferring with their peers. But LA is not a cheap city, as we know. So this year, some of the proceeds from this dinner will be dedicated to retaining the doctors in our community. We don't want... Yeah. We don't want the cost of living to be the reason our best, brightest, and most selfless leave us. And so I say, selfishly, retention is essential. And so now comes the ironic portion of the evening. As some of you know, my day job consists of basically coming up with nice ways of telling the folks on the other end of the phone that I can't give them the money they're asking for, okay? And you can circulate throughout the room. Trust me, it's true. Sorry. And so here I am asking you all for money, right? So I guess what comes around goes around, right? But all kidding aside, I tend to view life as comprising two and a half people. There are those who need help and those who provide help. And then there are the havers who are in the middle. I'm a haver. My job's to be a broker, to make the providers realize that apart from earning a living and providing for yourself, that in order to truly feel fulfilled and content in life, you must give back and help those who need help. That's what tonight is about, putting aside our individualistic views and joining together in a communal way to do the right thing. Providers helping those in need. It's very simple, actually. So that's why as we enter Care and Cure 1.5 mode, I'm asking everyone in the room to consider what you've heard and seen tonight, and to please make a pledge of $1.50 a day. If that doesn't feel like enough, feel free to give $10 or $15 or $25 a day. And if that's too much, feel free to give 50 cents. It doesn't matter. The goal is 100% participation. And if any of this is unclear, please feel free to find me after the dinner, and I'll explain it, okay? The $1.50 a day, although I did see on the front page, I think, of the LA Times today that parking went up to $5, but as I wrote in my speech, the $1.50 a day is less than your Starbucks cup of coffee, and it's about an hour and a half at a parking meter, unless you're downtown, because it's now $5 an hour, as I just read. But better than coffee or parking, the $1.50 will ensure that multiple kids have a doctor to care for them, just as Natalia Gomez and Audrey Clowen do. Dr. Rao's fellowship was made possible by your donations a few years ago when escape artists Steve Tisch, Todd Black, Jason Blumenthal were honored at the Care and Cure dinner. That was about 5 years ago. The more doctors we have, the quicker the care, the better the outcome. It's that simple. There's no middleman taking a cut. There's no brokerage fee. Your $1.50 a day will directly pay for 25 kids to be seen by an epilepsy specialist. That's a fact. So on the table are self-explanatory pledge cards. If everyone could take a moment to fill them out, hand them to your table captain. You've done this before. I know you have. You can join me in being a provider of care and cure. In closing, I can never thank you enough for your participation, as there's a very, very profound pain that I personally grapple with daily on why Mark, his wife Karen, Nicole and I got into the fundraising business in the first place. We were friends long before we became mothers and fathers to two beautiful but severely disabled angels who in their collective 21 years of life have never taken a step or mouthed a word. They both feed through a tube in their stomach and are 100% dependent on a third party for all of their needs. In any other place in the world or time in history, they would likely be living in memory only. But they're here. They're not going anywhere, and neither are we, because we're in LA. It's the city of angels, a city that's going to cure epilepsy, one doctor at a time. Thank you very much.